Hello all and welcome back to the Tom Colohue channels, where you are greeted, at least momentarily, by myself, solo Tom Colohue. There will be plural, there will be a Nick Barbati shortly as we preview the Royal Rumble happening tomorrow, but for now, let's intro, let's say hi, let's greet the world, and let's say what an incredible week we've had so far here in the Tom Colohue channels, because so far, over the last few days, going to mute that. Over the last few days, we have reached a new record here on the Tom Colohue channels. A whopping 850 subscribers, whereas at the beginning of the month, we were sitting at less than 800. I have to say massive thanks and massive gratitude to everyone here who has been pushing these shows, who has made sure everyone knows what is happening, made sure everyone knows that we are live and we share news here. And we've had quite a lot of it recently, so if you haven't yet, hit that like, hit that subscribe as we start the show. Quite a few people are jumping in, saying hello. Hello, King of Pro. Hello, Bailey. It is indeed a Rumble weekend. This close. This close. Spider Boss says, hi Tom, what's the plan for Roman versus Seth Rollins? We will get to that, Spider Boss. It's a preview show, so we'll get to it when we get to that match. But to be blunt, I will not be giving spoilers here. I will just be sharing predictions. Moxie's saying my name, saying let's go, indeed. Sean says hello Tom. Hello Sean, how you doing mate? And then over on the YouTube side, let's see what people are saying. We have Ed Fries, we have Simon saying hey everybody. Ed, I'll save that for when Nick is here, saying no Nick, we riot. You really gonna riot over it? Because I think even Nick would be surprised to see that one happening. Kevin says hi, how was your day? My day was okay. I've had a little bit of drama today as regards the job situation, but we'll talk about that probably during the watch party later on for SmackDown, because SmackDown's fairly boring, so we need something to talk about. Welcome Megan, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome Kervin as well. King of Pro said, did you post on Twitter for the live stream for me to retweet? Not just yet, but I will be doing soon. Sure, so I'm bringing the first bit of news. You go right ahead. Simon is saying news on the Sasha Banks fitness test. Once again, this is a prediction show, not a spoiler show. I will not be sharing intimate news like that. Spiderboss says, would be any surprise in the men's rumble? Once again, this is a prediction show, not a spoiler show. Sean says Ronda's going to win the rumble. Once again, prediction show, not a spoiler show. Kervin says, I want WWE to bring back Jeff Hardy. I don't think Jeff Hardy wants WWE to bring back Jeff Hardy. And here we go. If you guys will bear with me just one moment, I'm going to vanish while I sort out the show with my colleague Nick. Stay tuned, I'll be with you in just one moment. Hello again everybody and welcome to a live taping of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental adventure. You've just heard the hellos, but let's have one more from Nick Barbati.
Hello
Nick,
again,
the Royal Rumble is
welcome
literally round the
to a
corner
live
to a point
taping
when
of Nick and Tom's
you can just feel a little bit of excitement finally starting to drip through. Are you hyped for the Royal Rumble, sir?
It's not literally around the corner.
It's around
There's a 7-Eleven around the corner, but it's not literally around the corner.
Dantis is...
There's a level of professionalism that I expected. Am I excited, though? I think is the heart of what you're trying to ask.
Trying to,
oh,
yeah.
Tom, I could barely keep my clothes on. In fact, I'm going to start stripping as I think about this.
It
is. We are here. This is my personal favorite weekend of the wrestling calendar year. I think this is Tom, I've said this to you before so many times, but it truly does, I think, capture the essence of what the Royal Rumble is. It's a show about possibility, and everybody who's watching the show has a dream and a wish that their favorite is going to be successful in the Royal Rumble, whichever Royal Rumble it is. And it's a show that, in life, oftentimes it is that sense of possibility that actually is the moment of happiness. I think that was in Michael Cunningham's The Hours. It's a good quote from that movie and book. But it is true. And oftentimes we know WrestleMania underwhelms because expectations are way too high and the production is way too intricate to actually allow for the incredible unexpected moments. And Royal Rumble has adopted that notice. And it's why I think it's the best show that WWE typically puts on each year. I'm very, very excited.
So it's like WrestleMania is a great promise, but Royal Rumble's the one that actually delivers. Royal Rumble's the one here to satisfy us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's like me and you.
Yeah, sure. I'm guessing I'm the satisfier there.
I don't know about all that.
Before we get into the match card, I do want to talk about some bits of news that have been popping up. We are taping a regular version of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental adventure that will be appearing on PWTorch tomorrow. So let's talk about the most recent news as of time of recording. The big news, of course, is some names expected to be in the Royal Rumble. The biggest, undoubtedly, is that of the recent news of Ronda Rousey. Now, this time last week, we were talking about that in these streams here. On Monday, it made headlines because someone else started reporting it. It gathered steam, and before we knew it, we were hearing Ronda Rousey's name all over the shop. Nick, firstly, do you think she's going to be there?
I think she'll be there. I don't think she'll be in the Royal Rumble match itself. And in fact, I don't think it's the right spot for her. Ronda Rousey does not need to win the Royal Rumble to receive a women's championship shot. Quite frankly, she's earned one from her loss at WrestleMania 35. Her shoulders were not on the mat. No. That's a built-in story in and of itself. If Ronda were to return at the very end of the Becky Lynch versus Doudrop match and make a statement, that would be a much better fit for her. I don't want to see Ronda in action yet. I want to have to wait and, again, imagine what that's going to look like. I want to really get behind Ronda versus Becky as being that dream match where the fantasy of getting Ronda back in the ring, isn't worn off by then. Her losing the Royal Rumble would not be great, even if it was Becky that costs her the match, which leads to the eventual match at WrestleMania. I don't think that's necessary. If Ronda had been announced as a participant in the Royal Rumble, that would be the angle to take. Before her return, I think entrance from the crowd would be suitably excellent and let the Royal Rumble match do what it's going to do. Do you agree?
I do. I think Ronda Rousey, while she could make an impact in the Royal Rumble, it's not necessary to have her there to get to WrestleMania. I think Ronda Rousey would be in a very good position to be in an elimination chamber and earn her way that way, or just have a straight one-on-one match. This honestly would be a perfect chance to really shake things up and have Doudrop win the championship, but we'll not get into that until we get to the match a little bit later on for it. The second piece of news that I wanted to talk about came from the Wrestling Observer, and that was today at time of taping. We spoke on last week's Nick and Tom's Intercontinental adventure about the idea of potentially Chris Jericho being in the Hall of Fame. Well, a rumour has surfaced today stating that the WWE contacted Jeff Hardy with the idea of either bringing him back full-time or just entering him into the Hall of Fame, and he has turned it down. We spoke about the idea that maybe this is the WWE trying to sign people off, but they were talking about bringing him back. Given the circumstances that he left, do you think we'll see Jeff Hardy in the WWE again anytime soon?
It's Tom, there's just so much uncertainty about the intricacies of why Jeff Hardy left. I don't know that it's fair to even pass judgment on anybody involved in this scenario, Jeff Hardy or WWE alike, because without us knowing the whys and the hows, I think the result is that the decision of the moment was for them to not be together. And it was obviously enough for, if Jeff is saying I'm not coming back, there's obviously enough of an issue there in some capacity that this didn't all leave with everyone wishing well on each other's future endeavors. Yeah. Jeff Hardy seems to me as a natural fit, though, to be a legacy WWE performer. It would be hard for me. It's even hard for me to listen to podcasts of people who are currently employed by AEW encouraging Jeff Hardy to go work for them. Because the uncertainty of just exactly what happened, but having a basis of knowledge of what's happened in the past, you can't help but draw to mind to say, I just want this guy to be okay. So if WWE in this moment thinks after whatever happened, it would be okay for him to be in the Royal Rumble, then God bless him. If it means for him to be in the Hall of Fame, well, he should be in the Hall of Fame eventually, whenever that day comes. Whatever the problem is, and if it's a personal problem, let's call a thing a thing. If it is a problem that we just don't know enough of, but you could probably draw connections to, you don't necessarily have to tear someone down on the way out of saying, I can't be in your life. And celebrating someone and putting them in the Hall of Fame might just be a good move for someone who's struggling, if they are struggling. It might also be a good move for somebody who's been in the company for many decades on and off and deserves to be celebrated while they're young. And listen, Jeff Hardy's body ain't getting any younger, so you might as well get him now before he, puts himself in any kind of situation where, he comes on stage with, assistance. I think it works now.
I completely agree. I think Jeff Hardy's body has been through the wars, and he intentionally puts it through that all the time. He's more than deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. I would question as to whether or not they were intending to have him as first ballot, because I don't necessarily believe he would be the solo big name at the top, especially when you could have your Chris Jericho's, the Undertaker, Batista to that level, even though potentially he is someone deserving of it. But that might be a debate for another time and another Nick and Tom's. We have a few people saying hi in the chat. Ed says Nick and Tom's hot tub stream, which is unsettling in the most.
Well, hot tub stream. We almost, as we saw, I almost had a nip slip. Did you see it, Tom?
I did see it.
When I flung my coat open.
Showing off a bit too much.
We're going to get an OnlyFans. You know what I just found out, Tom? I was devastated.
Oh,
I'm going to, Tom, I don't know if you know this. We have new listeners. I like to talk about things that I experience in my life. So I was told I need to join the TikTok. Okay. So I made a couple TikToks. I wasn't ready for it. And quite frankly, it wasn't ready for me. So we just have mutually agreed that I'm just going to look at TikToks. Okay. So I'm looking at this TikTok and this guy who's one of them TikTokers, they call him, an influencer. He's got lots of different followers. So he knows people that I know because he's putting them up in his story. So I said, I'm a follow. Okay. Then I find out, then he says like, I'm reading the comments like, you got to look at his OnlyFans. I said, an OnlyFans. Like, what's an OnlyFans?
Oh.
You look at, I said, that must be like exclusive, like workout routines or song content or all of that stuff. Well, I did not join the OnlyFans. I did not follow the fan, but because I was directed to look at Twitter for a sample of the OnlyFans. Tom, these people just go out there and put their Peters out for anyone to see. Did you know this?
I was aware of OnlyFans, yes. Mostly because I have at some point had a TikTok.
So we've all apparently become sex workers overnight and nobody acknowledges this?
Everyone just embraces it.
Do I need an OnlyFans? Should I do an OnlyFans?
If you want an OnlyFans, no one will judge you for having an OnlyFans.
Oh, okay.
Well, people will judge you, but they're mostly the people you don't really care about,
All right, well, I'm just telling you about that.
It's a funny old world we ended up with. To be clear, the reason that he's saying about hot tub streams is because on Twitch there is a thriving market for people in hot tubs while streaming who just are in hot tubs. That's the whole deal.
Oh.
I never intend on doing it, but at some point I may parody it because why the hell?
Is this a wrestling show, Tom? 2 ears, come on.
We're trying. I'm trying to move on, but you've just gone into a whole rant about OnlyFans. There's only so much I can do.
There.
Wiggly says, what up, Tom? And hello to Nick. I do have Darnell a little bit further on saying hello, Tom and friend. This is Nick Barbati, this side. Nick Barbati. We are Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure on PWTorch, a weekly show on Saturdays. This is a live showing for a prediction show for the Royal Rumble. A little bit of a sneak peek at the content we make every week over at PWTorch that sometimes we want to show off. Spider Boss says, Ronda just showing up after Becky's match would be cool. KJ suggests Heyman with Ronda, and Ronda doesn't need the Rumble to get to Mania. I don't think she even needs Heyman, to be completely honest. And a little bit further on, we are definitely talking about the fact that we have ourselves a Royal Rumble, because I want to start with the women's match, because for me, this is the most cut and dry. The big exciting part would be if anything happens afterwards, because if Ronda Rousey's not going to be in the Rumble, this would be the perfect opportunity. So let's start with the Raw Women's Championship match. The champion Becky Lynch defending against first-time challenger Doudrop. Do you think Doudrop has any chance of this?
I do, actually. Now, here is my thought on this. I'm not going outright to predict Doudrop, but that's not what you asked. You asked, does she have a shot?
Yes.
Well, here is the thing. not every women's match, marquee match for WrestleMania or heading into WrestleMania season actually needs to have the title attached to it. So if you have Ronda Rousey that you want to bring back for a limited amount of dates, but you don't want her to get bogged down into losing and there's all that technicalities, you can create a grudge match. So if you wanted to feasibly take the women's championship out of the equation so it's just not a complication point, I think that that's not such a bad thing. It's been a while, I feel like, since we've had a suitable grudge match in any of the women's division in WWE that didn't involve the championship. And that's how you add layers and you add depth to the overall approach to women's wrestling in WWE. With that said, I still think that this isn't going to deviate from traditional WWE booking. Becky will walk out with the championship and be on a collision course with Ronda Rousey. I think that it's written in the stars at this point.
I like the idea of Ronda Rousey basically giving Doudrop the championship here for several reasons. Firstly, I think it gives us a new champion who could go into WrestleMania in a positive, a prominent spot. It will give someone like Bianca Belair more chance of winning that Royal Rumble, if you ask me, having someone like Doudrop to go up against. It would also mean that we not only get this grudge match at WrestleMania between Becky and Ronda, we also then firmly can say Becky is the good guy now. Because nobody's going to be cheering for Ronda Rousey. That's just not going to happen. She is the quintessential heel. It is perfect. Whereas Becky is anti-hero. That's how they play that card. It would be perfect. However, it's a little bit too standard and a bit too clever for the way that WWE does book things. You don't have a match the level of Becky and Ronda without a championship involved in the WWE. And honestly, whoever gets the championship next would feel the benefit of that feud being attached to the championship. So honestly, I think this is cut and dry. I think this is fairly standard. 15-20 minute match. Becky makes Doudrop tap. That's exactly what I think is going to happen.
I don't think that long. Not even that long.
You're not even giving it that long.
No. They have a lot to get on this show, Tom. They have a lot to get on this show. This seems like a really magnificent watch. It could be very, very painful if the pacing doesn't move the way it needs to.
I think that's fair. Ed is asking, I want to know what the painting behind Nick's shoulder is. Nick, tell us about the painting behind your shoulder.
Well, I'll tell you exactly about the painting. It is a painting by an artist named David Garibaldi, who has, in America, very well known for doing a lot of halftime shows for the NBA. He paints famous singers and people of history and just notable pop culture individuals in about 5 minutes using his hands and just paintbrushes. So that is Chance the Rapper, and behind him there is a Rihanna. Rihanna has exactly the same painting that I do, only with red hair. I have the original.
Ooh, that's just a lot of little intricate stuff there. I like
wait,
that.
Tom, actually look, Tom, this is going to be great for the audio. I have a Royal Rumble 2018 chair.
Oh, you get to sit on Brock Lesnar's face.
No, thank you. Did you see his teeth?
I like that you just dodged that very smoothly. Just dodged the chair. This is the wonder of the live recordings. You get to see things like chairs that you don't get when it comes to the actual audio. Cody Defoe is saying Jeff would go into the Hall of Fame as a tag team before a solo performer, or saying should go in as a tag team before a solo performer.
I don't agree with that.
I've got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure Matt Hardy would get into the WWE Hall of Fame outside of the tag team, just because of the way that the WWE tends to put those things together. I think Jeff would go in solo, but I'm not entirely sure Matt would go in solo. I thought that was definitely something worth mentioning. Now, let's move forwards towards the mixed tag match. We are going to have Edge and Beth Phoenix against The Miz and Maurice in a match to determine who wins the match. I'm not sure what the stakes are here, if there are really any stakes. It just seems to be everyone's angry at each other for reasons. I don't really understand what the problem is here. They're even quite nice to each other in promos sometimes. But there was a brick involved, so people are angry. I don't see this going any way other than Edge picking up a clean, decisive win over The Miz again. I see this being a reintroduction of Beth Phoenix, who I think might actually be a little bit more involved in the women's divisions going forwards. And I think we've seen just in the amount of times we've covered Edge matches and Edge storylines, Edge always comes off looking pretty strong. What do you think?
Go with Miz and Maurice, Tom.
So you're joking, right?
No, I'm not joking. Let me tell you why. The story, there is no rhyme or reason to how we have gotten here, in which we're even having this. There's a completely out of order. At the previous encounter, at day one, Miz should have won. The feud was settled. It was, the Maurice was prevented from interfering. She was blocked and intimidated by Beth Phoenix. Edge got the decisive victory over Miz. Why are we here? And Miz is a character that, God bless him, has been able to resuscitate all of his heat and recuperate from all of the damaging booking, and not even damaging, but just falling down the card as he has, and absorbing losses and absorbing, much lower card feuds and whatnot. There seems to be a little bit of wind under Miz's sails, though, right now. And I do think WWE needs wrestlers like him to be positioned a beat stronger than they've typically been allowed to in the past. Edge gains nothing by winning this victory. This, just extending this feud by 3 weeks seems relatively pointless. I think WWE is going to throw a curveball. I don't think this is the last we're seeing of Beth Phoenix, but there's no natural progression for her after this match. I think that this doesn't have to tie up at Royal Rumble. And I don't think Royal Rumble is not WrestleMania. We are moving towards something. And I don't know what that something could be, but in this case, you said it yourself. Edge always wins basically at this point.
Yeah.
Where he's just that's what it is. I don't think it needs to be. And in fact, I think Maurice has been really exceptional lately, and I think Miz himself is just really, really strong. But I think we're going to see a little bit of an extension. So, yes, I know the natural inclination would be to lean in heavily to an Edge victory, but just something about it just doesn't make perfect sense to me. So I'm going the other way.
We rarely disagree on these things, so it's an interesting start. I wonder how else...
Do you know why, though? I mean, do you see kind of what I'm thinking?
No, I see what you're thinking. I just personally think they want to tie a bow on it so that Edge can move on to something else for Mania. But I'd like the Miz to win. I don't know what that other
thing is, though, and it doesn't seem as compelling. And you're rarely going to be in a situation where you're against someone more compelling than Miz.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I do think he's one of the best talkers, and the talkers are the ones who really keep me interested in wrestling. People like the Miz, and so on.
That's why you like me.
I mean, essentially, yeah. Jonesy says, "Hi, Tom and Nick. Great to see you back together." Also says, do you see Bayley coming back in the match? The odds on her are crazy. We will be getting to that in a couple of moments because we've got an interesting layout from here on out because we have 4 matches, all of which are very interconnected with each other. Now, the women's match we can separate, and we will talk about that next. But when you get to the championship matches, they directly impact the Royal Rumble itself. So the match order is going to be very, very telling here. If we start with, for example, Brock versus Bobby, chances are one of those is going to be in the Rumble if that ends up main eventing the night. So there is just a lot going on when it comes to later on. Let's go now to the Women's Royal Rumble, because this one would only really affect the Doudrop Becky Lynch match that I'm confident will at least be early in the show. So the Women's Royal Rumble is a bit of a crazy one in that we've had a lot of people we didn't initially expect. There are rumours of a return for example, Cameron, who's been mentioned previously. Oksana's name has come up. We haven't seen her in a long time. Mickie James is going to be in the Royal Rumble. That's confirmed. There is also the possibility, though it seems a little bit out of nowhere. Okay. There is a possibility, though it seems a little out of left field, of Sasha Banks and or Bayley making an appearance in the Royal Rumble. We know the Bellas are returning for the first time in a very long time as well, and of course there are now these rumours about Ronda Rousey. The betting favourite, even as much as 4 days ago, was Bianca Belair. That is no longer the case. Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to start with yourself. Who do you have winning the Women's Royal Rumble?
I'm going to give you 3 for each of the Royal Rumbles, but there is going to be 1. I'm going to give you your 1, but I'm going to talk about, because here's the thing with the Royal Rumbles. What we can't do is sit here and predict the unpredictable. Yeah. There's always going to be the option of the surprise. So I am going with, Tom, I think I've been saying this for 7 months. I feel like I've just been sitting going, this is what's going to happen. Picture it. Tom, we're in the ring. Where's the Rumble this year?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. That's right. Oh, I got thrown up on the streets of St. Louis. I didn't do the throwing up. A kid threw up on me in St. Louis. That's a true story, Tom. It was in February. It was February 22nd. It was actually my birthday. The year was 2012. We're almost on or 2011. We're on the 11-year anniversary almost of that. So anyway, here's the thing. So we're in St. Louis.
You celebrate some weird anniversaries.
Okay, we're 29, you can picture it. Remember, 29 comes in, whatever, and after that person comes in, there's a Bianca Belair, and then there's like a Dewdrop, and then Bianca Belair lifts Dewdrop and goes to give her, the, what's it called? The
Kiss of Death, yeah. KOD.
Kiss of Death, KOD, yes. She goes over, and Dewdrop takes her with her. Well, how does that? We know there's an empty ring, and number 30 is about to happen. 10, 9, all the way there to the Ding Dong Show comes on out. And Bayley comes out, struts her way. All she has to do is enter the ring and is declared victor. I think it would be a fascinating end to the Royal Rumble and a fascinating fit to the Bayley character. I would love that. Oh, and not because I predicted it, but it's something that has not happened in the Royal Rumble before. I think it'd be a great ending, totally in line with the Bayley character. That's my top choice. I do think, I understand Bianca Belair has been a signature pick of many people. To me, it is too close to home to last year's win. And not to say that she doesn't deserve it again. Bianca Belair certainly has earned her place as an absolute main eventer in the women's division. My problem with it, though, is in a second year in a row win, it exposes a lack of depth within the women's division and a lack of real planning for the future with the division that I just don't think is very complimentary. We've already seen that WWE has had to tap into the reliance on announcement of previous wrestlers to fill out the show, to drum up some excitement, enthusiasm, and to just kind of say, hey, this whole last year didn't really happen and we're hitting reset. That's how it reads. She would be, however, my number 2. And number 3, if Sasha Banks could make her grand return, it would be great. If, the rumors of her injury had been overstated for a reason so that she can come back. She's obviously a great fit for any program, particularly against Charlotte heading into WrestleMania. So Bayley, Bianca, Sasha is my order. You?
Okay. There is a lot of play here, and I actually agree with most of what you've said there, because, as you say, for the last 7 months, we've been singing from a very similar hymn sheet. Essentially, since Bayley picked up her injury, we've both been of the opinion that Bayley should win this Rumble. If she can make it back, Bayley should win this Rumble, and I will stand by that, because at the end of the day, it's really very simple. Bayley is going to be welcomed back like a returning hero. An absolute hero. We've missed her so much. And it's high time she got even just that moment, because she tends to come in very late in Royal Rumbles. She's made the Final 4 twice, to my knowledge at least, just coming in late and getting eliminated late. She's been heavily involved every time by the end of the show, but she's never really had that one crowning moment. She's had a WrestleMania moment in a fatal 4-way elimination match with Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks and Nia Jax. She's had big moments. She's got a very good winning streak at WrestleMania, to be completely honest. But she's never had the moment where it's actually just about her. I think this is that moment. While I absolutely cannot trust the WWE, and I have absolute confidence that Ronda Rousey is going to roll in, eliminate everybody, and win the whole thing, I refuse to predict that. I refuse to go with my head. I'm going with my heart. I'm saying Bayley. I have no idea if she's cleared, no idea if she's going to be in attendance. I am still predicting that Bayley wins the Royal Rumble.
She does not need to be cleared to accomplish what I'm predicting.
And I like what you're predicting. I thought she was going to win, but I love the idea that you put forward, because yes, it's very Bayley character, but also it gives the fans that moment of just, hey, here she is. Let's just enjoy the moment. Nothing else is about to happen. Let's just enjoy the return. Also, you'll never get the chance to do that again.
Never. It needs to be done at some point.
In all the history of Royal Rumbles, this would be the one time that I would be absolutely A-okay with that happening.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if I get this one right? I mean, honestly, that we know if people are really listening to this thing.
Wow. Okay.
What?
Okay.
Was that an insult?
Okay.
Was it a backhanded compliment?
We have a couple of differing opinions. We have, for example, Spider-Boss, who is hoping that Sasha wins the Women's Royal Rumble. And we have Cody saying, what about Mickie James winning? Personally, I really don't see Mickie James winning. I think she's there for a one and done. Does good things for the whole Impact roster, but doesn't necessarily do good things for the WWE to have her beating everyone in their division. Because let's face it, it will be everyone in the Raw and SmackDown women's divisions. We have a question a little bit higher up asking whether or not we are going to see double duty for Edge, Miz, Maurice and Beth Phoenix. Do you think they'll be in the Royal Rumbles as well?
I could see Beth Phoenix being in the Royal Rumble, or even if again especially this seems very old school Royal Rumble shows. If Maurice is able to squeak a win over Beth Phoenix earlier in the night, then having Maurice come out but be completely chased down the aisle by Beth Phoenix and eliminated, I think that easily could extend past that match.
I think so. It really does depend on the pacing of the show and where the matches are. If the mixed tag match happens and it's only taken about 10 minutes, I'd expect to see them in the Royal Rumble, at least Maurice and Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix has been a workhorse in Royal Rumbles in the past. I remember the injury she picked up a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019. And that was bleeding a lot. What can I say? A lot of blood. Sonic is going with Ronda Rousey. And we have a couple of more opinions coming
Yeah, I mean,
through.
it's a very viable pick for sure.
It's a very WWE pick.
I don't know that, Tom. I don't think so. I don't think it's their pick to have her win. I think it would be their way to have her there. Sure, absolutely. To win, I don't think so. I really, really don't think so.
Okay. To be fair, the way that Ronda Rousey has one of her key moves, and the way that Becky beat her, is by she picks them up on her shoulders, looking like she's going to do a Samoan drop. That could be a very easy way to get someone out of the ring so that Bayley could walk in. That would certainly tempt me.
I know.
Ed thinks it's either going to be Bayley or Lita. Moxie is going Ronda or Bayley. Simon is just saying Sasha Banks in capital letters. We have quite a few favourites here. Kervin is asking a question here saying no kickoff match. Now, there has been no kickoff match announced, and the kickoff shows for the Big Four tend to be 2 hours long. I can't see them managing 2 whole hours without one wrestling match, but at the same time, I don't see who would actually be in a kickoff match when they've got to save a lot of people for the Royal Rumble. Does anything jump to mind for yourself there, Nick?
No, I think we will probably see a match, not of certainly the announced matches that we know for the card, but sure, why not?
I can see them putting together something like Chad Gable and Otis versus the Mysterios or something like that.
Oh, there you go. That's a great pick.
I was just trying to pick something tag team division.
Yep, no, you're right.
Okay, let's get into our final 3 matches because we have 2 championship matches and 1 men's Royal Rumble. And honestly, this is a really difficult section to call because they all intertwine with each other. And if you don't predict one the same way, chances are you're going to predict all of them in different directions. So, I'm going to start with Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. I'm going to start there. Who do you think is walking out of that match as the WWE champion?
Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar is going to retain the championship. I think Bobby Lashley is doing great work. Everyone knows that. He's due for more than he has been experiencing the majority of this year. I just don't think this is the moment. I don't think it's the moment for him to beat Brock Lesnar. I don't even think it doesn't really fit the Bobby Lashley character to benefit from, all that much interference from the bloodline. It just doesn't resonate with me that this is the moment for Bobby Lashley to beat Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar's next big defeat needs to feel big. It needs to be definitive, and it needs to really be with the purpose of putting someone over. And Bobby Lashley is not that man. I would like Bobby Lashley, obviously, to do very, very well. I love the pairing of him with MVP. And again, I want him to have that crowning moment. I don't even necessarily think that this would feel like it. I think what we're going to get out of this is a very hard-hitting, quick match that, and I don't want to disappoint everybody, might just be a decisive Brock Lesnar win. I don't know if that's the case. When you look towards WrestleMania, there's one person you can bank your entire paycheck on being in a main event. And there's someone else that, quite frankly, you could either see in a main event or all the way down the card, and not the opening match, world championship match like they were in last year. It wouldn't surprise me to see Bobby Lashley in the Battle Royal of WrestleMania, but it would surprise me to see Brock Lesnar entering into the WrestleMania with any form of weakness. Now, they could take the entire kitchen sink and beat Brock Lesnar. Okay, they do that. It's just not on my top list, but I feel like you're going to go in a different direction.
I actually am. And what I'm realizing more than anything is that what I'm actually pitching when you look at all 3 matches doesn't actually make that much sense. But I'm still pitching it.
Okay, but don't bleed into the other matches. Don't do that.
I'm being as careful as possible here.
All right.
I think Bobby Lashley is going to pick up the win and take the WWE Championship. Now, to be blunt, I don't know how this happens. I don't know what the situation would be at WrestleMania if Bobby Lashley was the WWE Champion. I have no idea. It does seem like we know roughly what the situation is going to be, at least for one championship, but the WWE Championship is very up in the air. There are lots of different opinions on how different matches go that influence it, but I think more than anything, I just feel like the WWE Championship should be out of Brock Lesnar's hands at this point. I think it was very clear that they were just trying something different. It was an audible call, and I'd like to see them get back on the prepared trajectory. Now, it does seem like Seth Rollins was supposed to pick up that win at day 1. He was supposed to be lining up, quite possibly against Big E, for WrestleMania. A lot of things may have changed that. There's a lot of different people who have played their roles very differently here. I'm really enjoying the focus on Brock and Bobby. I would like to see it continue, but I don't think it's going to. I think this is going to be a one and done, with Bobby Lashley actually taking the championship from Brock Lesnar. I don't think it'll be clean, but I do think he'll be taking it. I genuinely have no idea how we get there.
This is the type of in-depth commentary people pay great money for.
Yeah, this is the best advertisement we can possibly get for Nick and Tom. Me sat here saying, yeah, I have no idea how this is going to happen. Not a clue. Literally no idea.
Are we not acknowledging that it looks like you're drinking blood on the call?
No.
So there's been a cannibalism and a nipple on this call.
I mean, at least you didn't get both of them at the same time.
All right.
I mean, I've seen worse Saturday nights.
By the way, don't ever spray cologne on your nipples. It makes them taste like they're metal. Did you ever hear that?
It makes them taste like they're metal.
Yeah. It's just not helpful advice. I'm trying to help these people.
We get so many lessons. So many lessons.
I bet Ed wrote that down, and the Stat Queen, for sure.
Megan is here. In fact, Megan has said there is only an hour scheduled for the kickoff show. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. Means I can have a bit of a longer nap before the show starts.
I gotta tell you, you know what about Megan? Megan's my favorite. She's on her, very strict. She knows her wrestling.
There's a reason we call her the Stat Queen. She knows basically everything about wrestling, and if she doesn't, she'll find out very quickly. Mm-hmm. Moxie suggested we might see Usos versus the Viking Raiders on the kickoff show. I don't think they're quite there yet, and I feel the Usos have a part to play in another match, but I do feel Usos Viking Raiders is probably where we're heading for WrestleMania. They may have overplayed their hand a little soon. Ed believes that Bobby Lashley is going to win the championship. Simon also believes Lashley is going to win the WWE title. Kervin is suggesting that Paul Heyman is going to betray Brock Lesnar. All over again. And Malore says Brock Lesnar will walk out as champion. There is just a lot of different concepts here. It really could go either way, and I really do quite enjoy that. Megan says if you want someone who could play into Brock versus Bobby, how about Shelton Benjamin? Has a history of both and has been screwed over by both. Repeatedly by both at this point, I think, as well.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think it is, but at least there's a bit of storyline reason for it. Once again, when you know you're wrestling, you can spot these parallels. Let's get on to the next match, which I thought long and hard about the placing for this one. I'm going with the Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I'm going to go first on this one because I don't want to be unfair here. I had you going first last time. I think, and once again, this makes very little sense, I think Roman Reigns will be retaining. I think Roman Reigns will come out of this as Universal Champion. Seth Rollins will take the loss, go back to Raw, and probably never even mention it again in the build towards whatever the hell Seth Rollins is going to do at WrestleMania, which I think will involve a tag team match between him and Kevin Owens, or just a match between him and Kevin Owens. Again, I know we've seen it quite recently. It's fair. When it comes to Roman Reigns, I still think it's too early. And I think it's a testament to Roman Reigns that this still feels too early for me to take the championship when we're more than 500 days into this championship reign. I think the Usos will find a way to get involved. I think the most obvious way to do it is to have them attacking Kevin Owens backstage and Seth to be, at the very least, distracted. I don't think he'd go rushing to help, but I think he could at least be distracted for it. Nick, who do you have winning this one?
Not Roman Reigns. I think the check comes due, Tom. All the players are in the scene. We got Paul Heyman's going to be at the show. Brock Lesnar is going to be on the show. The Usos are going to be on the show. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts, which can create the chaos that ends a reign in a very abrupt, jarring fashion. Here is what we know. Let me go through the facts. Brock Lesnar has been champion for how many? 504 days or whatever?
Roman has been champion for just over 500. I think it's about 520 at the moment.
That's what I meant. So he's crossed that threshold, the longest reigning champion in WWE of the modern era.
Yes.
There's no real benefit, to WWE by him continuing that to add to that. I'm sure it's nice. It really is nice. Very, very nice. But here is the problem. There's a lot of different factors here about the current Brock Lesnar character. And that is, he's back for a reason. He's back to put over somebody for a reason. Because at this point, the days of Brock Lesnar being put over to then be the main star, those never came back in 2012. And they're certainly not back now. So this is all about Roman Reigns. But to make it about Roman Reigns, he has to actually beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. The elusive match that they've been pining for like a decade now. In order for him to get the big win, he needs to win decisively, and quite honestly, win a championship. Defeat him for a belt. End a reign. Start anew. And also, I would argue, start anew with the WWE World Champion, not the Universal Championship. Take the WWE Lineage Legacy belt. I think, again, when I use you can take the whole kitchen sink and have that thrown at somebody. I think Roman will be hit with the kitchen sink. But I think it will be an F5 that is really the move that takes him out before a Seth Rollins stomp and a win. Seth Rollins is actually the right person to end the reign because it doesn't need to start a long feud moving forward. It can just flip brands, the championships at this point. Seth Rollins is the top heel, the best heel on Raw. Roman Reigns is firmly SmackDown. It resets the deck in a really nice way that still has Roman Reigns in the title hunt, just a different title hunt. And that's the path I think they should go. Do I think they will go? I don't know that Royal Rumble is the date when that switch will be made. But if it's not Royal Rumble, is it the Saudi show? I don't know. I don't think WWE wants too much of the history of this feud to take place in Saudi Arabia. We already had that back in Crown Jewel. I think Royal Rumble is a good resetting point. WWE has made a big deal out of Roman Reigns' the days of his reign. For a reason. It ends at the Royal Rumble.
I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I'm particularly interested with the kitchen sink element because taking down Roman is no easy task. And I think they need to do it in a way that still keeps Roman, if he does lose this, strong for WrestleMania. You've talked about keeping Brock strong for WrestleMania. I think keeping Roman strong would be an even bigger concern for the WWE. But Seth does have the necessary elements to do that. He's got Kevin Owens as well. And you do still have Brock Lesnar lurking in the background. Though I do feel if given the opportunity, Brock would rather make sure that Roman takes the championship to WrestleMania as well for an attempted unification. I just don't see the WWE doing that.
Doesn't work when you're a Royal Rumble winner, as you've told me once.
Very true. There is a Royal Rumble winner, there'll be no unification. It does not make sense. Which leaves us with the men's Royal Rumble match, and we have a few people.
I'm excited. That was my excited face.
Okay. I thought that was a silence. I thought you were telling me to stop.
Two ears, Tom.
And I was quiet, and you're telling me off for it. Honestly, shameful. We have quite a few comments about the Royal Rumble. Firstly, I want to pick up on one from Kervin, saying, I don't see Finn Balor announced for the Royal Rumble. I don't believe that Finn Balor has been announced for the Royal Rumble, and I'm not entirely sure he's going to be in it. I think he will be, but I can't be sure at this point. I think he's one of those. He's not necessarily a big-name contender, But he's very good to be in there as an Iron Man, as of course he has been in the past as well.
Sure, yeah, I could see him easily being in the top 4.
Cody is telling me off for forgetting the freaking when I said Seth Rollins, which is lovely. It's lovely. Wiggly believes that Roman Reigns is going to be the champion past WrestleMania. Also quite an interesting
This is
one.
Wiggly?
Wiggly. His name is Professor Wigglytuff, PhD.
Oh.
You get used to some of the names that people have. It's a crazy, crazy one. Crazy one. Seth does seem to be the favourite amongst the chat as well, though Wiggly is desperately trying to make us talk about Goldberg. I'm not going to. Absolutely not going to.
Tom, these people love me.
Well, they're talking about Seth, but yeah, sure. Sure. Oh, and Simon just randomly says Austin Theory is a future megastar face of the company. There is a rumour, by the way, that Shane McMahon might be involved at the Royal Rumble event in some capacity. Now, I know I've shared the opinion before that we are building towards Austin Theory versus Shane McMahon for WrestleMania, but I also really don't want them to do that. Like, I just don't want that to actually happen. So I'm hoping that's not right. Really hoping that's not right. And Megan is now catching us up with some of the stats. Roman has the individual record with the Universal title, 514 days, but not the combined record for the title. Brock still has that at 686, whereas Roman is sitting at 577. That is still quite a considerable amount of time to take over if that is indeed the plan.
They don't care about that.
Right, let's talk Royal Rumble. Because all of this is definitely factored into when you have to consider Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. You have to consider Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. If Roman loses a championship, surely he'll be involved. If Brock loses a championship, surely he'll be involved. I can't imagine Bobby Lashley not winning a championship and still not being involved. He has to be involved in this as well. They're just two big names to miss out, as it were, but it really depends on the pacing of the card. So when it comes to the men's Royal Rumble, I've really had difficulty working out who I think is going to be the winner here. And this is where I feel the entire thing doesn't make any sense with my predictions. Because I'm going
Don't take my idea, Tom.
I'm going with someone that we've mentioned in the past. Someone who has been a betting favourite with no storyline reason. I'm going AJ Styles. I know that there is no logical storyline reason, but when I first looked at those betting odds, I saw AJ Styles' name and I just could not work out why he was there. I just started to like the idea. I don't know what that idea is. I don't know if that ends up with maybe AJ versus Bobby at WrestleMania. I don't know if that ends up with AJ versus Brock versus Roman. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But I'm going with heart rather than head, as I feel all of these predictions tell you. I'm going heart rather than head. And I'm going AJ Styles. I just want him to be back in the top table, back in the championship division, back at the top seat, challenging the top superstars, doing more than he was. I want AJ Styles. I want him now. And he would, of course, be perfect if Seth Rollins were to win the Universal Championship after all. So I'm going AJ Styles. Nick, your pick.
Well, that's not going to happen, Tom. So I'm going to pick my pick, and I'm going to give my surprise pick. Because, as we've said, there's always the chance that a surprise could be on the other side of this thing that is just, quite frankly, unpredictable.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to start with my surprise, if it's possible. Tom, hold on. It would not surprise me if The Undertaker came out and won this thing. You can shrug your shoulders all you want, but let me, again,
what the hell?
I come prepared with facts, okay? He will be there. We know he will be there because Michelle McCool is in the Women's Royal Rumble match.
He is there, yes.
If he is wrestling again, he will wrestle against a quality wrestler who can carry the bulk of the match. AJ Styles was to serve that role a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That would not be a role for him now, but it would be a role for Seth freaking Rollins. So you got the freaking in there. That could be a potential reason for the whys if there were moves to get Seth Rollins the championship. It would be a big marquee match, and Undertaker could suitably retire in Texas, which is a much better way for him to retire than an empty arena somewhere in Orlando, which isn't even an arena. It's just more of a little play center with the lineup of, all these corpses of the past standing around. So I think that's a real possibility, and I would not be surprised.
I hate everything you just said.
What'd you say?
I hate everything you've just said.
But do you hate because you could also see it happening?
Annoyingly, it's WWE, so yes.
Yes. Okay. So, but that's my the fantasy in me, and not a fantasy I'm trying to will to happen. Tom, you've heard me say it. You know about Scream. The people haven't heard me say this, but you know my theory is with a horror movie Scream, the tagline is "The killer is on the poster." This year, the winner of the Royal Rumble is on the poster. It's been announced. Even the word from Seth Rollins that I want to have someone have a made moment by winning the Royal Rumble. That person will be Mr. Kevin Owens. The recently re-signed Kevin Owens, the Mr. Kevin Owens, who is already in the main event picture, obviously, but more in a supporting role, who would be the perfect counter opponent to Seth Rollins, would be someone worth truly investing in. He's the same Kevin Owens that looks like he's in much better shape than he has been in a while, very motivated, and could be a tremendous babyface. Uses the most babyface move in the history of WWE. I'm going with Kevin Owens.
It lines up very nicely with a Seth Rollins win to have Kevin Owens pick up the win for the Royal Rumble. It really does. And of course that leaves the opportunity for Brock Lesnar to step into the Elimination Chamber, go nuts, and win the right to take on Roman. Logically, all those pieces come together very nicely. Honestly, I like your picks.
Well done, right?
Yeah, I obviously don't like mine, but I think I put my hat on that pretty early on. Pretty early on. Megan is saying the current favourites for the men's rumble are Brock, then AJ and Big E. For the women's, it's Ronda, then Bianca and Alexa. I don't necessarily think Alexa is going to be involved in the rumble myself, but stranger things have happened, including Alexa Bliss being involved in the rumble before, when she was literally the spooky, scary one who vanishes and comes back as a completely different character. So, stranger things have happened. Right. Megan also says Kevin Owens is 8th favourite currently. So you're going for an outsider for sure. One question I do want to pick up on, Malo says, why is nobody talking about the Intercontinental Championship? The championship seems to have lost its shadow. Well, at the moment, Sami Zayn is occupied by Johnny Knoxville. Johnny Knoxville, who will undoubtedly eliminate Sami at the Royal Rumble because that's apparently how this works. Nakamura has been cleared as of today. One of many fitness tests that happened backstage over the last few days, I am sure. So we will undoubtedly see that Intercontinental Championship match. I can't say Saudi Arabia because it's Sami Zayn and he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia. Probably they will try and keep it going all the way to WrestleMania at this point. I would have no issue with that. You have been asked by Wiggly, if Undertaker does win, who would he face at WrestleMania?
Seth Rollins. Absolutely.
I can't recall an Undertaker-Seth Rollins match.
No, I don't think there has been one. And again, Seth Rollins would do all the work that was planned for AJ Styles to do. There's no way Undertaker is satisfied with the Boneyard match and then the goodbye at the Survivor Series.
He'll never be satisfied.
In the moment, I said this to you, I think offline last time, was in the moment when we were in the height of the isolation element of the pandemic, when people were just in empty arenas and all that stuff, sure. We convinced ourselves that some of those things were fitting and fine. In many cases, even better than when people are here. Now that we're a little bit out of it, maybe not out of the pandemic, but out of that isolation time period, how do you not look at this scenario and go, this can't be it? This can't be it. There's no way. The quality of the Boneyard match was phenomenal for what it was. It wasn't a match. It wasn't a proper goodbye match.
One of the many reasons I suspect the WWE are going to try and announce Undertaker for the Hall of Fame this year, to draw a line under the whole thing and tell the guy, no more. Curvin is saying nothing about Asuka or Lacey Evans. There is a reason for that, though Asuka is expected to be in the Royal Rumble. Nothing really reported as of Lacey Evans just yet. I don't think either of them are going to be major players in the finish of the Royal Rumble. Megan is saying Owens is one of the favourites to be the Iron Man, which I think is very fitting for Kevin Owens. He could be a very good ring general in there. Moxie is asking, do we think Veer is going to be in the Royal Rumble? Because after all, Veer Mahan is coming.
Yes, I do.
I really hope he isn't. I hope he never turns up. He's a meme the entire time because he's getting over by not turning up. I just think that's very funny. Moxie is suggesting that Brock would be the one to win the Rumble. We've had the name Goldberg pop up way too many times. way too many times. Malone believes that Kevin Owens is this year's winner of the Men's Royal Rumble as well, so lots of good options there. Megan says the only time I can find with Seth and Taker in a match together is a Raw match from 2013 with The Shield facing Team Hell No and The Undertaker. Happened in London in April 2013. I do remember parts of that. I don't remember the actual match.
Yep.
So, that is our Royal Rumble predictions. That is who we think are going to win, and a lot about what we think is going to happen for WrestleMania as well. Now, naturally, I've been reading out quite a lot of your comments as we go through, but I would still love to know your opinions as well. You can still tweet at us. My Twitter is @Colohue, that is Colohue. And if you want to catch some of these live shows, you can always check out the YouTube channel, which is just Tom Colohue, where we are growing nice and quickly. You can pop on, check these videos, and in fact, see the faces and the strange things you keep hearing about in the background if you'd like to as well. Nick, where can people find you?
They can find me on the Twitter at Nicholas Barbati, NicholasBarbati. And I think I'm on TikTok at user 157122256.
And as soon as you've set up that OnlyFans, you'll let us know, yeah?
Well, so here's what do people want to see on the OnlyFans?
Ed did say earlier on that it doesn't have to be all about getting at the Peter.
The Peter?
The Peter.
Oh yeah, but like I can't believe that. That's where we are.
Yeah,
it just flies on out.
That's where we are as a culture.
Oh my God,
we are an instant gratification culture. That is genuinely where we are.
Literally, after I watched the first 5 minutes, I was appalled.
I was not ready for that. We are going to wrap it up there and say thank you very much. I will be live.
Apparently, we're not. People on OnlyFans don't wrap nothing up.
They do not.
It just comes flying at you. Like you gotta cover your eye when that thing comes at you.
I'll be live a little bit later for a full
don't leave your mouth
watch
ajar.
Party.
It flies right in.
Of WWE SmackDown. In the meantime, if you'd like to check out more of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental adventure, we are there every week on the PWTorch VIP section. I'd like to thank Nick for joining me today. Thank you, Nick. And I'll see you all very shortly.
I didn't know whether to burp it or feed it.